All right, so today we're digging into Deuteronomy. We're learning what it is. Well, it's the fifth book out of all 66 books of the Bible. It's also the fifth book of the Torah, or the Pentateuch. If you remember, the Bible is broken into sections. And I don't just mean Old Testament, New Testament. We're talking about the Torah, the historical books, the wisdom literature, the major prophets, and the minor prophets. And that first section, the Torah, it's the first 5 books or 5 scrolls of the Bible. And remember, Deuteronomy is that final book in this section. And it actually translates into second law. Now, the book has 34 chapters, and from a timeline perspective, it spans likely only a few weeks. So quickly, let's recap the Torah. What happened in the first 4 books? Genesis gave us creation. It's the early legends, and it introduced us to the Israelites. Exodus, the Israelites are enslaved, and God is going to use one man named Moses to help free them and to help establish some laws and guidance, which come in Leviticus, the third book. And this is more on those laws, more on those guidance. And then we dig into the fourth book, Numbers. God is going to take a census of these people and take them to the promised land. But the people are going to rebel a lot along this journey, and ultimately God is going to decide that only the future generation, not the one that he freed, plus 2 people, are going to go into the promised land. Those 2 people are the ones that didn't rebel, Joshua and Caleb. And that brings us to the beginning of Deuteronomy. You see, Moses has already lost his brother. He's already lost his sister along the journey. The people have been wandering for 40 years, and Moses knows even he isn't going to make it to the promised land. But now it's time to pass the torch. I want you to remember, Moses has been the leader, the key protagonist through Exodus, through Leviticus, and through Numbers. And now we find out our next leader is going to be Joshua. So now Moses, at almost the age of 120, is giving 3 speeches to the people about all of this, all in the book of Deuteronomy. So let's talk about what those 3 speeches are. The first speech, he's going to recount the entire journey to the next generation. As a reminder, Moses was around 80 when God called him to free the people from Pharaoh. We know the 10 plagues, the let my people go, the parting of the Red Sea, that all happened in Exodus. That happened with the older generation. This new generation, he's recapping all of that because this new generation, they're going into the promised land. They were babies and kids throughout most of this journey. So Moses is reminding them how much has happened. And that's around Deuteronomy chapters 1 through 4. Next, we go into the second speech. Here, he's going to reiterate so much of the 10 commandments, the Shema, how they're supposed to live. Now remember, these people, they have rebelled so much over the last 40 years. So he's telling them, listen, you have to hold on to the commandments. And he's reminding them of the kind of community that God is trying to form. That nothing can come before God and your love for God, which is supposed to be a part of your soul. We're also reinforcing the covenant the people made with God already. And that's why it's called the second law, because Moses is reminding them of the instructions and the guidance that God has already given them, and of the commitment that they already made to God. Now, he also tells them, listen, when you're going into these lands, the promised land, you're going to have to take it over, but don't become like the people that are there. And then he starts setting them up for when they're in the promised land, telling them, look, don't use the altars that they used to all the other gods the way that people did before you. You take all of that down. You go where God shows you and you worship the way God tells you. Here in this second speech, we start getting more about the rules of the community again, clean and unclean food, how after every 7 years you can cancel debts. It's about living differently and setting yourself apart by being God's holy people. And also, this very popular thing that still exists today called tithing is introduced and really talked about. Now, back then, it's a little bit different than what we know now, but I think it's important for you to understand where it comes from, and why it's important. And we're going to go into tithing a lot more in a different message, but this is how far that idea goes back. It's about giving back to God, but it's also about supporting the Levites, who were one of the 12 tribes. Remember, Moses was a Levite, Aaron was the first high priest from the tribe of Levites. And these tithings were used to help support the Levites and also the widows, the orphans, and the poor. Now we're also going to learn more about festivals, holidays that they celebrate, the Passover, if you remember that's from Exodus. In these chapters, they lay out all sorts of important things in this new community that they must remember as they're building up. And this is going to take us, the second speech is going to take us to the end of chapter 26. Now, in the final part of the book, the final speech, the third speech, it's getting them ready. This is that final football speech in a movie. Moses is telling them, like, listen, it's time to go, but you got to hear me. When you go, if you go, you have to be all in. You got to be all in on God. If you're all in on God, He is going to be all in on you. And then he starts talking about all the blessings that God's going to do if you're all in on them. But if you're not, he also tells you about all the consequences and the bad things that can happen. And then after this, it's time to pass that torch. God is going to have him pass it to Joshua. Remember, he says, now Joshua, it's up to you to lead these people. And remember, Joshua has already been leading the army for so many of the battles up until this point. On top of that, Joshua is also one of the 12 spies with Caleb that went in to scout, to look around and said, yes, we can do this when no one else thought it was possible. And now he's going to be the one to take the people into the promised land. And then two things happen that are so hard to hear. You see, God tells Moses, unfortunately, it's not going to be long before the people rebel again, turn against me. And honestly, all these horrible things are going to come to happen. But he has Moses teach them a song that they can remember during this time. It's going to be a song about turning back to God. Because he knows they're going to fail. He knows it's not going to be what it should be. But he wants them to hold on to God. God then has Moses go to the place where he's going to pass and end his journey. Imagine this. Years you've been leading the people. You've freed them from slavery. You've taken them to where God wants you to go. And you don't even get to go yourself. But now it's up to Joshua. And he's going to lead the people. I think it's important to note, I know this isn't about sermons, but sometimes we think it's about us. We think it's about God taking us to a destination. But sometimes we're called to just take the movement, to take the people, to lead the people. You see, God's message, God's will, it doesn't end and start when our lives begin and when our lives end. It goes till the end of time. And we're just meant to be an important part of that journey. And that's how the Torah ends. The first section of the Old Testament, the first 5 books. It shows us how he created the world, chose this one family to be his people. He saved them, he grew them, he got them out of slavery. Tried to build them into a massive community, to give them instructions, guidance on how to be God's people. Tried to bring them to the promised land, and how time and time again they turned their backs on him. But he never gave up on his people, ever. And he brought them to a land full of milk and honey. He set them up with laws, made them a true civilization. He kept trying to guide them, even showed them the importance of the tabernacle and how to take God everywhere that they go. And this is the end of the Torah, the first 5 books. The next section of the Bible is called the historical books. And this is going to start with Joshua and how they're going to head into the promised land. Now, if you have a deep desire to learn more about God, then come back every week. We're going to dig into so many things from this Bible, help it be a lot easier to digest and to understand, and to take you on this journey with us. Like and subscribe. Don't just go to church. Don't just pray. Don't just get into a Bible study group. Do it all. Find out more about the Creator of the world and come on this journey with us, because we're all flawed but we have faith that God can still do great things with us.